So let's take it from the top. What is a CRS? CRS is comprehensive ranking system score that basically standardizes different applications in the express entry pool, so that CIC can give them rankings, and based on these rankings they can then choose the top ranking profiles and hence invite them to apply for permanent residency. So this is basically CRS. Let me just get this out of the way. Okay, as a lot of you know who have been in the pool for some time, and a lot of you who also do a lot of research on the subject, but if you are in the pool already, or if you have been preparing your application, you already know that there are few factors that add points: age, language skills, work experience, and whatever for education. These 4 factors will add points in your express entry profile. There are certain other factors as well, and we'll come to those in a bit. So first one basically is age. Well, none of us is getting younger, and there's nothing we can do about it. But yes, age is one factor which will make a big difference in your score. So the younger you are, the younger they want them here, and so that's I know, I absolutely understand. I mean, why do I need to be so young to get to Canada? I mean, usually people decide of wanting to go to Canada once they have grayed a few hair and have matured a bit. But unfortunately, age is a huge factor. You get 110 points, or rather up to 110 points for your age. The younger you are, so the more points you score. But let's say that we cannot do much about the age, so the age factor remains the same. Education, well, everybody knows that Masters and PhD gets the maximum points. Rather, the PhD gets maximum points, but then if you're already at Masters, you don't really have a lot of incentive of wanting to go and get a PhD. So we can stay with Masters. If you do not have a Masters, at least bachelor's degree will get you decent points, but then it may not always cut it. Okay, so there's always that extra scope for something else that you can add, which will help you improve your CRS. The third factor obviously is the one I'm not going to talk about now, but the work experience. 1 year work experience, 2 years work experience gets you the same points in CRS, but the minute you crack 3 years, it sort of increases your CRS quite a bit. So if you're working, you haven't really reached the 3-year point, continue working, because once you have completed 3 years of work experience, that will get you a substantial increase in your points. Now to come to the more troublesome one, and that is the language skills. I know. I mean, IELTS is a scam. BC and IDP are frauds. IELTS has become a big, huge business. We've discussed it. We know it. We talk about it all the time. I think IELTS basically takes most of our group spaces, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Telegram, whether it's email inquiries that come in. IELTS. Well, it is how it is, right? So a lot of people ask, just because I cannot score that 0.5 extra, does that mean I'm not good enough? Well, that's not the case. You see, when this whole system was being designed, or when the system was designed, I guess they had to sort of come with some sort of standards where they can measure all different kinds of applications from all different backgrounds, from all different nationalities. So they had to put some standards in place. So obviously they put CLB 7 as your entry level, or what makes you eligible to come into express entry. CLB 8 sort of gives you, good score, okay? But CLB 9 is what you really need to crack it, right? So if you're missing that 0.5, it can actually create a huge difference of roughly 60, 70, even 80 points at times in your total score. So always, and I personally feel IELTS is one area which is the simplest, easiest, cheapest to get across that barrier. So if you have the opportunity, if you really have the patience, I know it takes a lot of resilience to retake IELTS after IELTS after IELTS, and to crack that score. I very recently met a gentleman in Chennai during one of our seminars who appeared for IELTS 17 times. I mean, come on, 17 times. But the good thing was he cracked it. 18th time he cracked it. He was there, and then he was so excited. So he cracked 18th. On the 18th time he cracked his CLB 9, and his score shot up to 460. I think he would have got his IT in the last draw, and so yeah, your IELTS is going to make a huge difference. So keep at it. That is something which I know. I mean, it seems very unfair that 0.5 can really make such a big difference. It's sort of a make or a break kind of a factor for your application, but it's there, right? So, but today we're not talking about IELTS as such. I mean, we all know IELTS is a big barrier for most of us, and there are a lot of you who are doing your retaking IELTS after IELTS after IELTS just to improve your skills, just to make sure you get that magical score of 8777. Well, I know it's not happening for a lot of us. So what else can we do to sort of get there? And just want to go there and let's make it happen. So let's discuss today other options that may be available to you. A lot of times what happens is, or where we don't think out of the box, is the combination that you can use in terms of if you're married. That is, this basically what I'm going to talk about now applies to people who are married. So you have a spouse accompanying in your application. Simulate your scores by making your profile as spouse unaccompanying and seeing if it makes a difference. Okay, I know a lot of applications, I know a lot of people who have realized that they can get a substantial number of increase in their points by changing it to spouse unaccompanying. Well, if you do that, and if you do get your ITA, please go ahead and do it, because as of right now scores are hovering at 440. There are very little chance that they will drop below 440, 39, 38. I'm putting my neck out on the line by saying 439, 438. Even those are looking difficult. But if you're any scores below those, below 438, and if you can change your profile to spouse unaccompanying, please do it. The reason why I'm saying is, you might be spending more time in the pool with 438 versus getting your ITA now with a higher score by applying as a single or by spouse unaccompanying. And once you get your PR done, land in Canada, apply for your spouse under the spousal sponsorship, and you're much better off. You realize that you can still do this better versus continuing being in the pool with spouse accompanying and then realizing it's just not going anywhere. That's one factor. Second factor is it actually again might not work with everybody else, because sometimes the spouse does add a lot of points. So for people who did not know, your spouse can add up to 40 points. We will remove the 10 points because the 10 points are for the Canadian work experience. Most of us do not have the Canadian work experience, so we can remove that portion out. That still leaves you with 30 points. 10 for education, maximum being for masters and PhD, 20 being for language skills again. So if your spouse can crack CLB 9 as well, he gets you 20 extra CRS points. So think about it. See if you haven't really got there yet. For the people who are struggling at 435 bracket, look at possibilities of first improving your scores, your IELTS scores, your language scores. If you're at CLB 9, look at CLB 10. CLB 10 will add 12 extra points, basically for 3 for each factor. So that's 12 extra points. So if you're at 430 with CLB 9, get CLB 10, add 12 more points, you're at 442. If your spouse is at CLB 8, he probably is at 12 points. He's only adding you 12 points. Help him appear for IELTS again or retake IELTS, and if he gets to CLB 9, he's gonna add another 8 points to you in your score, and you're at now at a very healthy one, probably to get your next ITA. So couple of factors here to look at. Apart from that, choose your again, this is with married couples as who are applying for the immigration. Choose carefully who gets to be the primary applicant. A lot of times people don't realize, and for example, if one of the spouses has a master's, 3 years work experience, probably CLB 8, and struggling to get that CLB 9, they may want to have this particular person as the primary applicant, whereas the wife or the husband, the other spouse, may have only bachelor's, may not be able to score more than CLB 7. However, the other spouse has experience, let's say in finance, maybe has experience in IT. Maybe the spouse has a knock which is in demand in one of the provinces. So be very careful, look at all different options, think out of the box, look at different ways of simulating your scores, make your wife, make your husband the primary, the other spouse then becomes the primary, calculate scores differently, calculate scores with a spouse accompanying, without spouse accompanying, with additional points for spouse IELTS, and accordingly figure out who is the best person to become the primary applicant. There is no harm in making 2 express entry profiles with each spouse being the primary applicant. Okay, so the husband can be the primary applicant, the spouse, the wife accompanying, and that's one profile, and another profile where the wife is the primary applicant and the husband is the dependent applicant, and make another profile. Choose your primary knock carefully. Be very careful with what you choose as your primary knock, because that is what will decide your knock in demand in most of the provinces. So twist it around, do a permutation combinations with these factors and see who can be a better primary applicant. These are the main areas. Now what else have we got? Yes, French. After having spent so many years, all I can manage is 3 or 4 French words, and none of them I can use right now because we are on an open channel. But yes, French can again help you a lot. So if you really are stuck in a rut and you're not able to crack anything going for, or not, you're not able to get anything going for you, consider French. Why? It can add up to 54 additional points. That's a lot of points. So you get 30 additional points because under the additional factors, and you also get 24 additional points for the second language factor. So French, might, if you've studied in school, if you've studied in college as a second language, French can actually help you get those 54 very important points. Give it a thought. If you really have the resilience and patience to go through and work hard, put in the effort, put in the hours, then take the TEF exam and get those French points and see if that makes any sense. Apart from that, the only other option that most of us are left with is either improve your education. So basically, if you have a bachelor's degree, consider doing 1-year diploma or 1.5-year diploma or 2-year diploma, or consider doing executive masters if you can. Even if it is a distance education, that's all right, because in most cases, if your education, if your university, if the program is accredited by most of the government authorities, those will be verified, whether it's by WES or by ICAS or ICAS or CES. So don't lose that factor, because it's extremely important. Your scores changed drastically with just a bachelor versus a bachelor plus another diploma. So that will count as 2 degrees or more. So if you're really struggling there, consider adding this as an education. 1 year can really pass pretty quickly, and you never know where this whole where this particular camel sits, on which side of the whole of the mountain next year. But keep that in mind, that express entry is not closing down, guys. I do not know who's been talking about express entry shutting down, express entry closing. From what we've heard so far, none of that has come to our attention. The quota has been declared until 2020. On the contrary, CIC and the concerned authorities have only been making a lot of changes to improve the way Express Entry performs. So do not worry about Express Entry closing down. On the contrary, just think out how you can improve your scores, how you can bring in the additional factors into play so that you are sitting pretty on the top. Apart from that, we have, what else have we got? We've spoken about the spouse, we've spoken about IELTS, right. The Aladdin's lamp. If you can find the Aladdin's lamp, if you can find the arranged job offer. Now, I know it's extremely difficult. I know it's something. It's become more like a mythical creature, you know. Finding this employer who will give you the arranged job offer. What is an arranged job offer? Arranged job offer basically is employer who has got a document called LMIA, which is Labor Market Impact Assessment, which primarily proves that there is no other Canadian resident or citizen in Canada who can do this particular job, and hence this employer needs to bring you into Canada to work for this particular job. This is LMIA. So you basically need this particular document, which is LMIA, plus a job offer. Now the job offer must categorically state that this job is available to you or for you for at least 1 year after you become PR. These two things collectively make this a verified or an arranged job offer. Or okay, I'm still getting messages. We need to get rid of this one. Right. So please look for an employer. I know it's a very difficult one. Really know it's a very difficult one. But how can you find a job? How can you find an employer? So let's take a few things into mind. Though the job bank, which used to be mandatory earlier, which is only optional now, job bank can sometimes churn out some very interesting options. So don't rule that out. Keep looking or keep searching or keep looking for possible matches within the job bank. You never know, you might get lucky. Job boards, Indeed.ca, Monster.ca, Workopolis, LinkedIn, all these are different platforms which you can use to apply for jobs. Again, you never know where you might get lucky. If you at all you have certain skills which you know for a fact are in demand, please make your resumes which reflect these skills properly, and do reach out to most of these employers out there. If you get that verified job offer or arranged job offer, that adds 50 points to your CRS. That can make a huge difference. Even if it does not make a huge difference, I mean, for example, you're at 370, 380, even if you get 50 points for arranged job offer, all you will come to is 420. That's not going to cut it, right? So what do you do? Use this job offer or use this LMIA to get a work permit. Get a work permit, come to Canada, work for a year, work for 2 years, get Canadian work experience. Now things change, you know, because Canadian work experience can get you points ranging from 35 to 70 for people who are married or who have spouse accompanying, and for people who are single. Canadian work experience can get you points ranging from 40 for 1 year till I think it's 80 for about 5 years of work experience in Canada. So those are substantial number of points. So if you can get this, if you can find an employer who's willing to hire you, who's willing to bring you to Canada, who's willing to sort of give you the chance, get onto it. And what else can we get? We've spoken about this, we've done this. Right. 600 points. How do we get 600 points? 600 points come to you through PNPs, which is Provincial Nominee Programs. We've spoken about this many times before, but we're going to do this very quickly again. What are Provincial Nominee Programs? Provincial Nominee Programs are programs which are run by different provinces, where they get to choose candidates and nominate them for 600 points. Whether it's express entry, then 600 points. If not, they just get to nominate them, and then the applicant can apply for PR through CIC. The reason why they get to choose is because they feel that these individuals have certain skills or have certain profile which they feel will be beneficial for their province. This is why they get to choose them. So this is provincial nominee program. I'm not going to talk about all of them because in most cases they need a job offer. British Columbia, in most cases, Alberta. Actually, Alberta is now running a express entry based system, but they need connection to the province. Manitoba needs connection to the province. Yukon needs a job offer. Of all these, the most feasible ones or viable ones is Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, Quebec. I mean, though Quebec is not part of the federal express entry or similar, but you know, if that's the way to get in, then that's the way to get in. New Brunswick and PEI. So let me start with the other way around. Let's start with PEI. Currently, Prince Edward Islands is accepting expressions of interest only from people who have job offers. I know, again, the job offer, or who are French speakers. So there you go. If you start speaking French, you know, a lot of other doors will open, including Ontario. So PEI is playing difficult because they would only offer, or they will only consider applications or expressions of interest from people who have job offers or who can speak French. But keep an eye on PEI because, you know, they do change this whole profile. They do accept expressions of interest from almost anybody. So do keep an eye on them. You never know when they will change the requirement. They might start accepting expressions of interest from generic NOCs as well. Something to keep an eye on. Secondly, is another one that I want to talk about is New Brunswick. Now, New Brunswick runs information sessions in different cities. I think the next one is in Vietnam, in Hanoi, if I'm not wrong. There is another one in Dubai in September, but I'm not sure if the registrations are closed. If the registrations are not closed, please do register with them. If your occupation is in demand in one of their identified list, what they will do is in the information session they explain to you about different things that happen in New Brunswick, why it's a good province to migrate to, and once you've attended an information session, that stays valid for 2 years, and within the period of 2 years, if and when New Brunswick opens for expression of interests, you will be eligible to apply. And New Brunswick is very quick in their processing. So once they have opened for accepting expressions of interest and you applied, you will see a very quick turnaround, probably within 3 to 4 to 5 weeks. I have heard people getting nominations in 1 week flat. So keep that in mind. And if you can attend their information sessions, please do, but do not go there uninvited because they will not accept. So send out your resumes to them, send out your application to New Brunswick on the email addresses mentioned on the website, and hope and pray that you get invited for their information sessions. So that's New Brunswick. Ontario, my favorite province because I live there, and it's obviously quite diverse in itself, but Ontario has been playing a mystery game, so we don't really know which way they're gonna go with all the changes in the politics, and it's suddenly having frozen, so we're not really sure what's going to happen with Ontario. I know recently they did restart sending out notifications of interest, but only to people who already have a job offer in Ontario. Haven't heard much about their human capital priority stream, and that's the one we are all interested in. So Ontario as of right now is not looking very interesting. Quebec, I know everybody is talking about Quebec because they relaunched their expression of interest program, or I wouldn't say relaunched, rather it's a new process that they've started. Earlier it was first come first served. Mon project happened, and now this is the new one. They also called it the regulated skilled worker program, regular skilled worker program, or QSW, which is Quebec Skilled Worker Program. It was to be launched on the 2nd of August. They did launch it on 2nd of August. The French version was available, and since I told you I can only speak 3 words of French, and that doesn't help, so I wasn't able to really figure out most of their criteria. But I did make a post on this. If you could go to askkubeir.com/QSWP, you will see the criteria, the grid on their minimum eligibilities, and how they will process the candidates under this particular program. Give it a look. They do have something which is very confusing. I do not know why did they come up with such a confusing process, but it is what it is, and we need to figure ourselves out. So, but they have something called areas of training. They did issue a new list of areas of training, I think few days back. That was also available on our Facebook page. Please give it a look. They do give emphasis on education and the area of your education. So for example, if you have done aeronautics, if you've done medicine, if you have done IT, so you'll have to search for appropriate areas of training, and you can get points based on whatever skills are in demand and the respective areas of training. I don't really find Quebec program very easy to sort of crack it, in the sense like there are just too many factors involved in order to identify the correct score of your eligibility. But they do have a evaluator on their website. Use it, see if you are eligible, and if you are, then and if that's the only way to go for it, then you please apply through Quebec Skilled Worker Program. You do not need a job offer, and French is not mandatory. So of course, I mean, they do give additional points for French if you can speak. So there are already 3 or 4 times that we have spoken about French. So you might want to consider brushing up if you already know French, or taking it up as a new language, because even if you spend 6, 8, 10 months learning French, it will hold you in good stead. So think about it. So this is Quebec Skilled Worker Program. The next one is that I want to talk about is Saskatchewan. SINP. The update with Saskatchewan is that they updated their occupation in demand list. They added 7 new knock codes in the list, which is a good news, because every time that they add new NOCs means the doors have opened for another 7 different categories of workers, or categories of people out there. So please check out the new occupation in demand list of Saskatchewan. It really can help you there if you are in one of those 7 NOCs. The only issue with Saskatchewan is that they emphasize on licensing and certification. So if you are under one of those specific NOCs that need licensing or certifications, then you may as well start as soon as possible. Obviously, Saskatchewan moved on the 16th of July to expression of interest system. Some find it unfair, some find it pretty good. I have a neutral position on that. They haven't done the first draw yet. It's expected sometime this month. We're keeping our fingers crossed to see when that happens and what the first drawn out scores are. But do keep your eyes open as far as Saskatchewan is concerned. Somebody just messaged and asking me about Alberta. The reason why I'm not speaking about Alberta is because, one, you either need a job offer or you need... But the problem with Alberta, just like Manitoba, is that though Alberta has now started picking up people from within the express entry pool, the preference or the people who are being picked in the pool is for people who have connections with Alberta. So you had past experience with Alberta, as in your studies, your work experience, your relatives, similar to Manitoba. So Alberta is going, or rather has gone that way. Earlier this morning, I think somebody posted in one of our Facebook groups about Manitoba and Alberta. Why do they have this requirement of connection to the province, and it's not fair? Well, you might feel it's not fair, but it's absolutely fair. Why not? Why shouldn't it be fair? The reason why a province nominates you is because they want you to come to their province, right? And they want you to sort of inhabitate the province, live in the province, help in the growth of the province. But you will realize a lot of people who get nominated by most of the provinces, especially the smaller provinces, don't really live there. They will land there, they will spend a few months, and then obviously they will leave because they are protected by the Constitution of Canada. You don't need to live in the province that nominated you. You can live wherever you want. That's the mobility right that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms gives you. So where is the interest of province in there, right? I mean, so they're basically not gaining anything. So they're absolutely within their rights to nominate only those people who they feel will stay in their province. And statistically, they have realized that the people who have some connection with the province, whether it's through job offer, whether it's through previous work experience, whether it's through previous education, people who are familiar with the province, they tend to stay in the province, and hence they have this criteria, or hence they have this requirement of preferring people who have some connection to the province. So I don't really blame them. So stop calling them unfair, because the reason why they nominate is because they wanted to be there. Right. What have we got? Nova Scotia. I love Nova Scotia. They're so simple in the whole process. They have 11 NOCs. If you are in one of these NOCs, if you have 67 eligibility points, hey, when the next time the province opens for intake, please apply. That's as simple as they can make it. Recently, they have actually started a different stream called Labor Market Priority Stream. Under this stream, they would like to identify certain NOCs which they feel are in great demand, and the latest one which we saw, for which they sent out specific notifications of interest, was to NOC codes which were in early childhood educators. I think it is 4214 if I'm not wrong. Good move. I think they sent out about 300 notifications of interest to people who were in this particular NOC, and I think it's a pretty good move. If you are one of those who did get this notification of interest, please don't lose this opportunity. You have 30 days to apply. Make sure you get your documents in order and apply to the province. Even Nova Scotia is pretty fast in their processing, and within 2 to 6 months, 2 to 4 months, you should be able to get your nomination. Somebody just asked me when are they going to open. Dimple, give me a minute about that certificate of qualifications. I'm just going to come to that in a minute. So Nova Scotia, when they will open, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows, because it's a state secret, so they're not going to tell you when they're going to open. But yes, when they do open next, and it is expected, a lot of chatter, a lot of talk, a lot of noise that they may open sometime this month or next. Because the total quota that Nova Scotia has is roughly 1,200. They already opened once a couple of months back, and it's expected that they're due for opening anytime soon. But if they do continue to go the labor market priorities way, then the chances are that they might look at only specific NOCs and may not really open in a haste. But keep your eyes open. So another thing which is very important is that you need to keep your eyes as to what is happening in the immigration world on a day-to-day basis. Things change very quickly. Provinces open, close very quickly. Demand list changes all the time. So if you're in the pool, please make sure you're always updated. Please make sure keeping an eye on what things are changing when. And that will hold you in good stead again. Now, Dimple asked about the certificate of qualification. Yes, certificate of qualification does add up to 50 points, but that is only for trade categories. So if you are not under FSTC, it won't really make much of a difference. But yes, certificate of qualification does add up to 50 points. It is for trade categories, people who have certain trade skills. The NOC codes have been defined on the CIC website under the FSTC stream, and take a look at that. Now, I know, it's. I did today's session to talk about how to improve your CRS or what are the other options. But to be very honest, most of you guys already know that. You crack your IELTS, look at PNP options, add an education if you can. All of you guys already know that. I mean, I'm not giving you any new tip or any magical formula to do this. But this is basically for people who are new to the system, have not really cracked it yet, haven't been able to get around the whole idea of how they can do it. So yeah, just keep this in mind, especially the factor of out of the spouses, who can be the primary applicant and how you can use your NOC code to apply for PNP. Other options. Now, there is one particular option that I'm going to talk about in the end, which I really want to, suggest to a few people out there who have been asking me a lot of times. But you can also study in Canada. It's not a bad idea. A very expensive one. I absolutely agree. It's not cheap because a per year cost to study in Canada could set you back anywhere between 20,000 to 30,000 Canadian dollars. Maybe more. The reason is the international study student fee is roughly 20,000 per year, roughly, depending on the program, and add to that another $10,000 to $15,000 for your expenses. You're looking at roughly $35,000 a year as student studying in Canada. The benefit, well, Canadian education will get you additional points. 15 to 30 points is what you get for Canadian education additional. In addition to that, if you're married, your spouse can accompany you to Canada. So if it's a 1-year program, the spouse also gets an open work permit. If the spouse gets an open work permit, that 1 year of work experience can then be added to claim additional points for Canadian work experience. So important CRS points to think about. If your study program is longer, let's say 2 years, you can get work permit for up to 3 years after you've completed your education. So you complete your education, you get 3 years work experience. You get 3 years work permit, and if you've worked for 3 years of so now if you have 3 years of Canadian work experience, substantial number of points get added into your CRS bank. With Canadian education, so you're looking at a very healthy score already. Add to that, the spouse also adds Canadian work experience points. Again, very interesting and very promising there. Also, it matters which province you've been studying or working, because that province will obviously give more preference to you, and you will probably be able to qualify under one of the PNP programs. So studying in Canada is always a good option. So if nothing else is working for you, and if you really have that money to spend in something like this, please look at this option. Please think about this option. Nagin, you're asking me to discuss about PNPs. We just did that, so probably you'll have to look at this video again. What else? Work in Canada. It's the same thing. Finding a job is not easy if you're outside of Canada. So what can you do? So what is that another one option which can make a big difference? Get a visit visa. Come visit Canada. Okay, it's not easy. Avinash, that's a good idea what you've mentioned, but yes, okay, coming back to what we were talking about, visit visa. Get a visit visa to Canada. Come to Canada. There are 4 provinces which come under AIPP, which is Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Labrador and Newfoundland, and PEI. Yes. So if you get a job offer from a designated employer, you are eligible to apply for PR under AIPP. The problem is nobody knows the list of the designated employers. From what I understand there are roughly between 1,200 to 1,500 designated employers. I wish we knew the list of these employers, but we don't. So come to Canada, get a visit visa. You'll be allowed, or entitled to stay for 6 months. it's a good period of time to understand a lot of things. You'll get an experience about how harsh the winters can be. It'll give you an understanding of what life in Canada is all about. It'll help you network. It will help you possibly, fingers crossed, find a job, spend time in one of the 4 provinces that I've just spoken about, try to get a job with one of the designated employers. Much more easier if you are in Canada, and you never know, either you will find a job and you will start working, and you will get Canadian work experience, or you will be able to apply under AIPP, which is Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. So good options. Earlier somebody cracked a very silly joke, but it's a valid one. I mean, I have to give it to Avinash, and he said about getting married to a Canadian. As I said, it's a valid, it's a joke, but it's a valid one. Yes, if you think you can find a Canadian who's interested in you for whatever you're worth, get married, please. You might find somebody good. Somebody might find you pretty, promising and good. And for all you know that, you find your soulmate in Canada. Use Tinder, use one of the marriage platforms, and see if you can find somebody. And it's always an option. Hey, I mean, if Canada is your dream, and if you can make that Canadian dream happen by finding a soulmate in Canada, well, so be it. So these are mainly most of the options by which you can come to Canada, by which you can get your PR. If you guys were expecting some magic tip, I'm sorry if I disappointed you. There isn't any. This is just to explain to you that these are only 4 factors that affect your CRS. Age, you can't do nothing about it. Education, if you've already got masters, can't do much about it. PhD will take too much of time, not going to go into it. Work experience, at 3 years, the CRS maxes out. It leaves you with only IELTS. Get your IELTS score to 8,777, and you will realize that your scores have shot up. For people who have reached the age of 40s and feel that there is no way out, for you guys, I can only suggest looking at PNP options. Trust me, there are lots of different PNP programs that you can still look at, whether it's Prince Edward, New Brunswick, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia. Something might just crack for you guys. For people who are asking me about self-employed, guys, today is not the day or subject for that kind of a discussion. We'll do it one of these days, very soon. But this is all that I have for you for today. Nice coming back online again and seeing you guys. We'll do this again, hopefully next week, from probably Delhi, I think, and we'll pick up a new subject. And I know a lot of you have been asking about self-employment, or rather how do you apply as self-employed? So you know what, I'm gonna pick up that subject for next week. Yes, so let's do next week about self-employed, how as a self-employed you can apply for PR, what you need, what you don't need, what documents, everything. Until that time, or until next week, see you again. Bye-bye.